The night she appeared at my door, rain clinging to her hair and eyes heavy with something far deeper than exhaustion. I felt the fragile walls of my carefully controlled life begin to crack. Some moments arrive quietly, but they carry the weight of a lifetime. And even before she stepped inside, I knew this was one of them. I had learned how to live alone, how to keep my bed half empty and my heart carefully guarded. But fate has a way of knocking when you least expect it, asking questions you are not ready to answer. Before this story pulls you any deeper, take a moment to pause. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of human connection, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today. Comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across every distance. My name is Daniel Carter, and for most of my adult life, I believed solitude was safer than love. After losing my wife Emily in a sudden accident 5 years earlier, the world had become a muted place. Colors dulled, laughter felt distant, and every night, the empty side of my bed reminded me of promises that would never be fulfilled. I worked long hours as a night shift supervisor at a logistics warehouse, not because I loved the job, but because the silence of the night matched the silence inside me. Days were easier to endure when I slept through them. Nights were harder, but they were honest. Lena Harper entered my life on one of those brutally honest nights. She was my tenant, renting the small basement apartment beneath my house. Quiet, polite, always paying rent on time. She existed on the edges of my awareness. I knew she worked at a downtown cafe, often returning home late, her footsteps light on the stairs. I never asked questions, and she never offered answers. We were two strangers, sharing a building, each carrying our own invisible weight. That night, however, something had gone wrong. The power in the basement had failed, and the storm outside had flooded part of the lower level. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, drenched and shaking, I noticed the bruises she tried to hide beneath her jacket, and the fear she failed to hide in her eyes. Life teaches you how to recognize pain when you've lived with it long enough. I offered her a towel and space by the heater, telling myself it was just basic decency. But decency has a way of pulling you deeper than planned. As the hours passed, the storm worsened, and the city outside dissolved into a blur of rain and sirens. Lena sat quietly on the couch, hands wrapped around a mug she barely touched. I busied myself fixing what I could, pretending not to notice the way she flinched at sudden noises. Eventually, the truth surfaced not in words, but in her posture, in the way she folded into herself, like someone expecting the world to strike again. She had left an abusive relationship, one that had drained her confidence and replaced it with fear. That night, she had nowhere safe to go. Letting her stay felt simple in the moment, but as the hours turned into dawn, I felt old wounds reopening. Trusting someone into my space meant risking the fragile balance I had built. My bed had been a place of grief for years, a quiet reminder of loss, not something to be shared. Yet as I lay awake, listening to the storm and the faint sound of her breathing from the other room, I realized how deeply loneliness had shaped my decisions. I wasn't protecting myself anymore. I was hiding. The days that followed changed us both in small, almost invisible ways. Lena stayed temporarily while repairs were made, but temporary has a way of stretching when hearts begin to heal. We shared silent breakfasts, exchanged tired smiles, and slowly, cautiously, allowed normalcy to return. She began laughing again, softly at first, like someone testing whether joy was still allowed. I found myself cooking real meals instead of reheated leftovers, opening windows during the day, letting sunlight touch corners of the house that had been dark for too long. The challenge wasn't the growing closeness, it was the fear that came with it. I struggled with guilt, wondering if I was betraying Emily's memory by letting another presence matter to me. Lena struggled with nightmares and the instinct to apologize for existing. Healing, I learned, is not a straight path. It stumbles, retreats, and demands patience. Some nights she would wake in tears, and I would sit in the hallway outside her room unsure how to help, reminding myself that sometimes presence is more powerful than solutions. As weeks turned into months, our connection deepened without labels or promises. We talked about dreams we had buried, about mistakes that still haunted us. Lena wanted to go back to school, to prove to herself that her past didn't define her future. I began considering a transfer to a daytime role, imagining a life that included mornings, weekends, and something beyond survival. Change didn't come all at once. It crept in, gentle but persistent. The night that inspired the question in the title arrived quietly. Repairs were finished, her apartment ready again, but neither of us moved. The space between us felt heavier than any storm. Fear returned, whispering that good things never last. That attachment always ends in pain. Yet when I looked at her, really looked at her, I saw not a replacement for what I'd lost, but a companion for who I was becoming. She didn't ask with confidence or expectation. She asked with vulnerability, with the kind of hope that trembles because it knows rejection too well. And in that moment, I realized the real question wasn't about space in my bed, but space in my life, my future, my heart. I answered not with certainty, but with honesty, offering the possibility of something lasting rather than something temporary. From that night on, nothing was easy, but everything was real. We faced setbacks together. Lena confronted her past legally and emotionally, reclaiming her voice piece by piece. I confronted my grief, finally allowing myself to say Emily's name without breaking. Love didn't erase our scars. It taught us how to live with them. The bed we once viewed as empty or unsafe became a symbol of rest, of shared silence, of mornings that felt worth waking up for. If you've made it this far, pause for a moment and think about the spaces in your own life, the ones you've kept closed out of fear, and the ones waiting quietly to be filled. Please comment below and share what this story made you feel or what it reminded you of, because your words matter more than you know. In the end, this story isn't about romance alone. It's about choosing courage over comfort, connection over isolation, and hope over fear. It's about understanding that forever doesn't always arrive with certainty, but with a simple willingness to stay, to try, to open the door when life knocks unexpectedly. And if this story touched your heart, if it stirred something you thought was long asleep, please like the video, share it with someone who needs reassurance, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach others who may be standing in the rain, wondering if there's still space left for them somewhere in this world.